Hello and welcome to our video about how to set a block on point. This is the 8th video in our seasonal sampler series. Each video is set up so you learn one or more beginner to intermediate quilting techniques while working on a small project. In this video you'll learn how to figure out the sizes for the corner triangles needed to set this tree on point. You'll also get instructions for adding the maple leaves. Ready to begin? You can find the supply list for this little quilt below. Links to assembling the tree and making the leaves are also provided. To set this block on point, you'll need 4 half-square triangles, as you want the straight of grain or cross grain on these outside edges. There's many ways to calculate the cutting sizes of these squares. Today you'll only need your square ruler or a piece of paper to find these cutting sizes. No calculators required. Here's my tree block and I've laid my square ruler over it. Make sure that the number 1 is on both sides at the top of your ruler. Move your ruler down to the block's corners. Meet the ruler's edge. You want to end up with the same measurement on both sides. Now this unfinished tree block should measure about 12.5 inches square. Mine's between a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch short of that measurement. So my measurement here might be a little bit different than what you get. Now this is where your corner triangle goes, but we're going to have to add seam allowance to figure out the cutting size. You want to grab a ruler that has a 1/4 inch mark. I've taped this off so you can see that. And you'll take your ruler and line it up on the block's edge. Make sure that the mark on this side and this side are the same. It's between 9 1/8 and 9 1/4 inches. So round it up to 9 1/4 inches. So I can cut a square 9 1/4 inches and then cut that on the diagonal. But don't cut that just yet. You want to measure your own block to get a cutting size that fits your tree. You might also want to think about this. Adding a 1/4 inch will put this corner right on the edge when completed. So I usually add more than a 1/4 inch in order to give me a little extra room. I have some small samples here to show you the difference. When you sew the triangles to your tree, the points on your block will end up looking like this. It will give you about a 1/4 of an inch from the corner of your block to the edge of the square. I like to have a little bit more room here because often I get off a little when I add these pieces to my square. Now I've over-exaggerated a little bit here. I've added a couple of inches to these corner square triangles, but you can see how this gives me extra room to get in here and maneuver when I'm trying to square up this block. So instead of adding a 1/4 inch for seam allowances, I like to add a 1/2 of an inch. So let me take a ruler. I lined up the 1/2 inch mark over the fabric's edge. And I see that I'm pretty close to 9 1/2 inches on both sides. I'll cut 2 squares at 9 1/2 inches and then cut them on the diagonal. So what do you do if you don't have a square ruler? Well, you can use paper, but you'll need a big piece of paper. So a newspaper, wrapping paper, a paper bag, whatever you have around the house. Cut out a large square and then fold it on the diagonal. I put some other folds in here just to help me line things up, but it's not necessary. I lined up the diagonal with the center of my block, making sure that both corners touch the edge of the paper. Mark those spots and then measure to ensure that they're the same distance from the corner of the paper. Line up your seam allowance on that edge. I'm going to add 1/2 an inch here and make your marks. Measure from the corner to here and you'll get almost 9 1/2 inches. So I'll cut 2 squares at 9 1/2 inches and then I'll cut them on the diagonal. Lay out your block. Find the center of your triangle by folding it in half. I like to press that spot, but you can use a pencil to mark it. Find the center of your block and then put right sides together, making sure to match those centers. pin, and take note that you'll have extras on the ends. So a 1/4 inch seam, taking care not to cut off these triangle tips. Press towards the triangle. Add the opposite triangle in the same manner. If you happen to cut off a triangle tip and you have to rip out a seam, just remember that this is a bias edge, so be careful when you handle it. Add the last 2 triangles. If these little corners bother you when adding the next piece, just take your block, line up your square on one of the mat lines, and trim. Now you have a nice clean edge to line up your triangle. When all the corner triangles have been added, you'll want to square up your block. Lay out your tree and your leaves. Find the middle section of your leaves and make a mark. Line that up with the middle section of the tree. Cut 2 rectangles of your background fabric. The rectangles should be as long as the leaf section, with about 1 inch extra on each side. This will allow you to adjust the maple leaves to fit to the tree block on top without using any calculations. Put right sides together and sew each rectangle, and then press. Line up the center of the maple block with the center of the tree. Trim the excess. Put right sides together, sew, and then press. Now you're ready to add your batting and your backing. In the next video, you'll start working on this winter sampler when you learn how to make these snowflakes using English paper piecing. Hope you stay tuned. Thanks for visiting LearnHowToQuilt.com. Please share our patterns and videos with your friends. Thanks.